It's high time we learn about iteration and iteration in Python. Iteration allows us to repeat the same task over and over again with very high control on the number of iterations. So let's draw a little diagram. We might start from some code and we'll perform a test. So we can see that it will resemble conditionals. And actually, iterations are only a slightly modified form of conditionals, a more restrictive case of conditionals. So the test, if true, will execute the true block, which we call here the loop block. And if false, it will not execute any statement. It will go on to producing more code. So far, it's very similar to a test. So this is the false block is empty. And if the loop block was branching back directly to the code, it would just be a simple conditional. The difference is that it's not doing that. It's going back to test. So when iterating, you're really performing a test, and if the result is false, you're jumping out of the iteration loop, and if the result is true, you're executing a loop block, but you're not leaving the iteration afterwards, you're just going back to testing again. So this whole thing here is the iteration loop, and this is the previous and post code. Okay, so in Python, this iteration is implemented by a for loop, and it's done slightly differently. So the grammar is that you write for, and then something with a colon, and then you write your loop block, so what you want to execute, and then some post code. So some additional code to run afterwards, and there is some previous code here. Okay, and the for will essentially implement the test. So the for here will have to be what's called an iterator in Python. So I'll just give you an example here. It would be I in range 5. So I will run through the integers, so through the 5 first integers, and it will perform a test. Is I less or greater than 5, and it will execute the loop block while it's less than 5. And after that, it will jump out to the post code. So it's very similar to what we just saw before. The I less than 5 is the test, and while I is less than 5, we're going through the loop block. Otherwise, we're jumping out. The catch, or the little subtlety here, is you also have the option of an else for a for. So you can write a for and then an else, and this is the false block. So if I look back at my previous diagram, the false block is empty here. Well, in Python, you have the option of populating this block as well. Okay, and you can write something here. All right, so if you decide to use an else block, you can go from the code, run the loop many times, and then at some point exit and run something when you exit. Run this part when you exit. So that's a for loop in Python. There is another type of iteration in Python, or one of many other types. It's called a while instead of for, and it's very similar to for, but we'll talk about that later.